Welcome back to Just King's World. On my hip hop ish, we present to you Dope Read. Dope Read is a series and a collection of dope books that we find dope, that provokes your mind, elevates your mind, provokes thought. And right now we are discussing and reading 2 Chainz' new book, which is called The Voice in My Head is God. We are currently on chapter 5. If you made it this far, we definitely appreciate you for tuning in. We're going to continue and finish this book, and then we're going to move on to the next one. Chapter 5 is titled, The Whole Foundation Shaken. There is a quote, "Me and mama used to trap out the same house. Me and mama got busted at the same time." Quote, proud. Everything requires a solid foundation. The first part of building a lasting home is the kind of soil you use before you start building that thing. A house needs steel rods before you lay the concrete down. Then once you start building, it doesn't matter how much money you put into the light fixtures or the pretty little kitchen island if the foundation is quicksand. I remember folks from around my way having a solid hustle idea without solid foundations. I will listen to their hustle play and realize the errors of their foundation from the jump. Imagine opening up your own beauty salon without anyone to manage it. Or maybe you think you're going to run it yourself, but you don't have any entrepreneurial experience. Our personal foundation as people begins long before we drive our first car or ask someone to the prom. It starts when we're growing up and the voice is somewhere itching in our ears, trying to remind us of the foundation we're built on and which direction to move towards. Sometimes I think about the things I experienced growing up, and I'm thankful my children would never have to experience that. They will, however, face obstacles I never had to experience and might not even understand. When I think about foundation, I think about being grounded. What's needed to build something sustainable from the ground up. You need a really strong foundation. Now that can be in family, business, or whatever you deal with. In this case, I'm talking about the foundation of a house. I've been in 3 or 4 drug busts, and they all happened at home, and they were all with my family. I started selling packs with my mom at a young age. Yes, with my mom. I was young, but my maturity level was much older. Maybe it was because of my pops and my mom. I was really understanding life at an early age. Maybe it was God or trapping or both, but I always stayed within my own frequency. I always preferred the frequency of older people, so I always hung out with people much older than me. My pops sold work, so I started selling packs with my mom around 12. Selling packs just seemed to be the family business, and it felt as natural as going to school. Thank God I've never been in any home invasions, but I have been in my share of police butts. A few happened when I was young. The first happened at the first house. Me and my mama and my pops lived there. It was around Christmas time because I remember the tree and Christmas lights blinking. I remember the layout of the house. When you walked in, my parents' bedroom was on the left, and my bedroom was across the hall from theirs on the right. I had to leave my door open unless they closed it. This was much different from how my kids will now go into their room and close the door. I couldn't do that. I couldn't either. I couldn't close no door. If they were having company, they closed my door, but otherwise I had to leave it open. The whole situation started when my pops running in like he was being chased. Back then, my pops had the coolest stash spot in the world. The bathroom mirror took up the whole wall above our sink. The mirror had these little plastic clips on the side that could remove to take down the mirror. My pops would hit those clips with a power drill. Zit, zit, zit. This was in the 80s, and back then a power drill was like a new technology. Him owning a power drill was another thing that made him the man in our neighborhood. He would take the mirror down, and there was a hole behind it where he kept his pounds of weed. Anytime I would hear that sound back then, zit, 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 I knew what was going down. He was another dumping some weed in. He was either dumping some weed in or taking some out. Even when I hear that sound now, I'm thrown right back into that house, right back into those moments. The night of the first bus, I heard my pops run into the house out of breath. It was about 3 in the morning and I had been sleeping. Me hearing him running in loud starting to wake me up, and I really woke up once I heard him yelling my mama's name. Jeanette, Jeanette, I think they're about to hit the house. Immediately after he said that, I heard the familiar drill sound. Zit, zit, zit. At the time, I was only around 4 or 5, but I knew what was going on. The Christmas tree was so bright that night, just lighting up the whole house. White folks was running around screaming. The first thing we heard the police say was, "Come out, and if you don't, we're going to take a bulldozer and knock this whole house down." Then shortly after, we started hearing the battering ram, and the whole foundation of the house started shaking. Then motherfuckers just started coming inside. From my adult perspective, I realized that the police must follow him from a deal, or what we call a play. When the police came through the door, they told my pops to freeze and drop the damn weapon. My pops was an outlaw, but not crazy enough to have a pistol or anything like that in his hand. He did still have a drill in his hand, and they had their flashlights and weapons pointed at him. I'm not sure I'll ever understand what happened next or why my pops proceeded to do what he did, but he started to seriously pop off, behaving like he had a death wish. He grabbed the hand of one of the officers who was holding the gun and placed the gun to his own head. "Shit, kill me. Go ahead and kill me. Go on and do it. If you're going to kill me, just go on and do it." I had my head down on the bed. My pops started to get beat with guns and flashlights. I closed my eyes. They started putting my parents in handcuffs, but at some point before we all left the house, either my pops or mom filled my jeans with something. By the time we got outside, I found out that my Doberman, Toom Toom, had been killed by the cops. I never saw my dog, but I knew he was there, and my pops believed the cops did it. That devastated me more than all the chaos. Toom Toom was my dog, my motherfucking dog, and my best friend. My pops had put me on game back then and how he keep police dogs from being able to sense dope. He always kept lime and pepper laid out around the house. He told me it'll keep the police dog sneezing and they wouldn't be able to smell nothing, both inside and outside. My pops later told me the lime and pepper pissed off the cops who showed up that night. They asked my pops, "Epps, what the fuck are you doing? What the fuck are you trying to do to our dogs?" I don't know if that made them hurt Toom Toom or if they thought he was a threat. I just know Toom Toom died during the bus, and I know I'm still mad about that shit. Both my parents went to jail that night. I went to my grandma's house. Once I got there, I found out what had been stuffed in my jeans. A few family members took me to the bathroom and started stripping me down. At first, I started pushing them off me because I didn't understand why they were taking my clothes off. My aunt and them started taking packs off me. I guess my mom had given me a hug or something before we separated and ended up putting packs in my Jordache jeans. I remember their faces shining like them damn Christmas lights when they started pulling drugs out of every pocket. The second drug bust happened when I was in the 7th grade. I went to Gresham Park Elementary School, but stayed in the Pittsburgh neighborhood with my mom and her boyfriend. They drove me to Decatur every day for school. At the time, my mom's boyfriend had his campaign going on. He had one of them horse and carriage setups in Atlanta. You know, the folks who park a horse attached to a carriage on the side of the road waiting to see if anybody want to ride around the city. He was one of them, and actually one of the first ones doing that in Atlanta. He had a solid business that was actually profitable, but he had bricks too. I wouldn't call the horse and carriage business a cover-up, but he made real money in a different way. Him and my mom both knew that I liked nice things. They both knew I was a hustler and into clothes and fashion. I've been into fashion my whole life. In a move to support me in my fashion sense, they appointed me to sell Knicks, small $5 sacks. The play was simple. I sit up in one of our house windows that wasn't too high off the ground, but high enough so people couldn't fuck with me. People would come and give me money, and I would give them drugs. For every $50 I made, I probably only ended up with 20. But that was cool with me. I make my 20 and take it to the candy lady. My pockets stayed full of Airheads, Funyuns, and Faygo drinks. It didn't take long for the police to come and see us. I had been working the window play for about 2 weeks when one night, while I was sitting in the window, I saw 9 dark-colored Ford Tauruses lined up down the street. There was something about how synchronized they were. Something told me they was there for us, but I didn't say anything. I didn't move. Officers started getting out the cars, and the first thing they did was approach my granddaddy's Cadillac in our driveway. I don't know why my mom had my granddaddy's Cadillac at the time. It was brown and it was clean. They opened all the doors and searched the car. They didn't spend much time in the car. Maybe they didn't find anything. I'll never know. I do know they moved to our back door next. And without any word or warning, they started hitting that motherfucker. Boom, boom. The whole house started shaking, even the foundation, a familiar motion. I started freaking out because I was stuck, and that probably was the only time in my life I ever been stuck. We thought we had a super secure door until it started getting hit with that big-ass battering ram. Boom. There was a group of them hitting the door. Boom. It probably took 3 tries before the door finally buckled. I could hear it all happening from my room. I stared out the window praying it was all a dream. I was the first person to see them. I saw them before they got into the yard. I told myself maybe it wasn't real. It all seemed too cinematic, too scripted. I felt like I was there but not there. And I was only 12. I was a child. As the late great Notorious B.I.G. once said, it was all a dream until I heard my mom scream from the other room, a familiar sound. Then everything got too real. Ty, do whatever they tell you to do. You hear me? You hear me, son? She shouted from the other room. There were other aggressive voices, but I couldn't make out what they were saying. I knew we were in trouble. Shit, I knew I was in trouble. I had been sitting in the window selling $5 nickel bags in plain sight. At the time we had a maid. Wait, these niggas had a maid? The fuck? Wait, let me explain. She was a J, a junkie, that we hired to keep our house clean. All right. She was a respectable addict. At the time, she was almost like family and had a way of protecting me. I was tall for only 12. I was the tallest person in the 7th grade. I wasn't quite 6 feet, but I was close enough. To the police, I was tall, black, and looked a lot older than I was. We know how this goes, right? Not to mention my demeanor and the way I carried myself didn't appear to be adolescent at all. So when they made their way through the house, I knew I'd be fair game just like everyone else. When the police finally got into the living room, something told me not to move, to just stay still like I had been. I thought about jumping out the window, but I didn't. The maid told them, he's just a baby. He's just a kid. They immediately laid me down and started patting me down. I didn't say anything. I remember them being gentler with the maid. Maybe because she was a woman. I'm not sure. They weren't gentle with me, though. Even though she had told them I was a kid, they didn't seem to give a fuck. And even though I was quiet and compelled, they didn't seem to be enough. That didn't seem to be enough. My mama and her boyfriend ended up going to jail. They put neon handcuffs on my mom and her boyfriend and took them away. My pop's already in jail, so they needed to do something with me before DFACS, Georgia Department of Human Services Division of Family and Children's Services, got involved. I ended up calling one of my favorite girl cousins who would do anything for me. She was really like my favorite cousin. I ended up staying with her in Decatur for a while until my mama got some things together. Thankfully, her boyfriend took the rap, so my mama didn't stay in jail long. But even when she got out, I continued to stay with my cousin for a while. I felt really bad for a long time because I wasn't able to warn them. I was the one who saw the tourists lined up. I saw them checking the Cadillac in the driveway. I saw them headed for our back door and never warned anybody. I was a lookout and didn't do my job. I felt like I failed my family. I know that a lot of people didn't have to go through what I went through growing up. These memories stay with me until this day. I'm thankful for all the times something told me to be still when I came face to face with the police. I'm thankful I listened to my intuition. I'm happy to never know what other outcomes there could have been had I not listened. When I stayed with my cousin in Decatur, I was doing my thing. I was hustling. Rest in peace, Big Ken, who gave me my first $50 slab of crack to hold. I had been doing the weed thing, but I got my first $50 slab from Big Ken in Countryside Apartments. Rest in peace to the legend, a for real legend in the game. I ended up breaking the $50 slab down into 12 rocks that I sold at $10 a piece. What a business hustle. I had spent $50, and after cutting everything up, came out $70 a head. After I sold the 120, I used the residual to get more work from Big Ken. See, the thing I knew about selling crack was that I never use it. Unlike weed, I didn't need to worry about getting high off my own supply. I repeated the process of breaking $50 slabs down into 12 rocks until I was able to buy my first pair of Jordans. After that, I didn't turn around. I never looked back. I was really out there. I was staying at my cousin's house, but I was kind of violating. I was fucking girls and trapping while my cousin was at work. I was doing the most, and my cousin had gotten tired of my shit. I ended up moving back with my mom, who was at the time staying in College Park on Riverdale Road. This was how I even started going to North Clayton and meeting a bunch of new friends. Around the middle of 9th grade, I met some real hustlers who were like-minded like me. I was making new friends, and so was my mom, who started dating a new nigga that hustled. It was like anywhere she went, she found a nigga who hustled. Her new nigga sold dope. I can't say I even really fuck with the nigga. I can't even remember his name, but he be the reason I experienced my third drug bust. I was 14, lying on my air mattress sleeping, and once again around 2 or 3 in the morning, a loud commotion woke me up. I sat up and heard my mama's boyfriend running in the bathroom. Groundhog Day. He was panicking and flushing the toilet repeatedly. I stood up and started walking towards the bathroom, but before I could make it there, the police ran into our apartment. The whole foundation started to shake. I wasn't sure what to do, but I had been through it before. I didn't need to ask any questions. I don't know if in the moment I actually thought about the other incidents. Either way, looking back now, I know my body remembered because I froze, just like I had 2 years prior. And while I stood there frozen, I remember what was beside the air mattress. Back then, I had this bedtime routine. Every night before I went to sleep, I would eat cookies and milk every single night. It was the one and only innocent pleasures that nobody outside my house knew about. On that night, I had my routine cookies and milk before resting my eyes. Only that night, I ended up balling up 10 crack rock dimes in a napkin and placing it in the empty red milk cup. I have to pee, I told the cops as soon as they saw me standing in the hallway. I was spooked and didn't know how else to keep them away from my bedroom. They had already gotten a hold of my mama's boyfriend. That nigga was cooked. You can pee, but you have to leave the door open. They wanted to watch me. They wanted to watch me pee. Their request was not only awkward but embarrassing. I had no clue what was going on. I pulled it out and started trying to pee. They stood there and watched. The problem was that no pee was coming out. And the harder I tried, the less likely it seemed I actually pee. I was nervous as fuck. The 2 cops stayed watching. I imagined they wanted to see if I would try to flush work like my mama's boyfriend did. They kept on watching me and watched while no pee came out. The irony was that I actually had to pee but couldn't with them watching. Even to this day, it's hard for me to pee without privacy. One of the cops started smiling. I thought you had to pee, man. He was borderline laughing, mocking me until I finally peed. After I finished, they sent me into the hallway. From the hallway, I could see into my bedroom. I could see my unmade air mattress and the red milk cup. They went to my bedroom and started tearing shit up. They flipped the air mattress and searched the floor, my drawers, and the closet. My room was small, so it didn't take them long to look through everything. They weren't finding anything. I heard my mom and her boyfriend been taken out of the house. I sat and watched the cops the way they had watched me. I had been trying to pee but couldn't, and they had been trying to find dope but couldn't. We were eating. After not finding anything, they seemed to be done with my room. I finally breathed a little, but right after, one of the cops, an Asian dude wearing high-tech boots, accidentally kicked my milk cup over. I remember he was Asian only. He was the only one not wearing a ski mask. A sack of crack fell out of the cup onto the floor. My heart fell out my chest and right onto the floor with it. Oh, look what we got here. They took my mama and her boyfriend to jail. I had to get somebody to come and get me again. I went back to the apartment a week or two later, and it had been ransacked by people in the neighborhood. People in the neighborhood knew our apartment had been busted, so they came through and took everything, clothes, TVs, everything. There was no need for me to go back to that house, so I had to figure things out on my own. I started staying with my homeboy and his family until my mom got out and got herself together again. My pops was already incarcerated at the time, so he wasn't around to save me. My homeboy I was staying with ended up not going to school as often as I did. I was at school one Wednesday, and folks started telling me that the principal was looking for me. I was confused because I hadn't been doing anything. I ended up finding out that a letter had been sent to the apartment saying I needed to go to the court for the work the police had found. Since I never saw the letter, I never went to court. Since I never went to court, they ended up issuing a warrant. They came to get me out of school that day in 10th grade, and that's when I went to juvenile detention. That's when I started to tighten up my basketball skills in juvenile detention. I became a hoop star in juvie. There Kobe Bryant, a trap nigga, crossing niggas over, gliding through the air in boxer shorts worn backwards so my dick wouldn't fall out. I don't want to preach, but I know these experiences have affected my family's foundation. Me and my mom have needed to work through a lot to be in the headspace we're in today. We still have a ways to go, but we'll get there. That was a dope chapter. Talking about foundation. Think about the foundation when he first started. He got busted 3 times. And each time they got busted and his parents went to jail, his mom had to rebuild her foundation. But the thing about it, she always rebuilt the foundation, and each time the foundation was built differently. But yeah, man, let us know what you think about this chapter in the comments, man. Make sure you leave a fire. We are going off to the next chapter. The next chapter is going to be chapter 6, Walking in My Purpose. We'll be back at you soon. Thank you for tuning in. We off to the next one.